My name is Leah, also known as Eventual on Ravelry and Miss_LJV on Instagram. Today is Sunday, December 29th, 2019. We're getting towards the end of the year. This will be my last podcast, I think, of the year. So I think today I am going to go over some end of the year and yearly wrap up yarny related things. It's been a few weeks since I have last podcasted. I did do Vlogmas all month. I had one like really short podcast in the middle of Vlogmas. So if you are interested in Vlogmases and interested in what I've been up to this month and a more in-depth sort of look at the general way of my life, feel free to check out any and all of my Vlogmases. I did try to just do a really short description in the description or show notes to let you kind of know what happened that day. So if you're only interested in a few certain things, like if you are interested in more what I'm doing with knitting stuff or what ITG is like, or I don't know, stuff with family or whatnot, check out those specific episodes. So I just got done playing ITG, so I am, I just feel like my face is like redder than normal, and I feel like, I don't have any mascara on or anything, so if I look a little sick, it's mostly just because I'm tired and because I just got done exercising. Nero has been, the cat, my orange cat, has been laying on the couch all day. And of course, the second I start podcasting, he decides he wants attention. So, that's what I've done. I did Vlogmas every single day this month. I did upload a few of them late. And it was because we were up north, and up north, the internet is not so good. And there was just absolutely no way I could have uploaded any Vlogmases while I was up north. And then when I got back from being up north, for the first day or something, I was really working on finishing last minute Christmas knitting, and so I just didn't have a chance to upload them. So I think I uploaded a few on Christmas Day, but for other than that, I was pretty on top of it, either uploading same day or the next day. So yeah, that was really cool. It was my first Vlogmas. I feel like I should have a short conclusion to Vlogmas. It feels weird to just stop, but maybe this podcast can kind of count as that. I had a lot of fun. I worked on Advent socks, and I opened a 12-day skein Advent from Brazen Stitchery, and they were self-striping yarns, and they were very, very good. I really enjoyed those mini skeins. I would love to do something with them. I saw some people, of course, doing mini skein shawls, or cowl, I think, or small shawls. I also saw people do mini skein socks, which looked really cool with semi-solids and tonals. I'm not sure how that would look with self-striping, but I'll keep an eye out for something that seems interesting to use those for. Otherwise, they are I bought a giant fishbowl from Michael's, and I put the mini skeins in there along with all of my other mini skeins. I have had a lot of extra time, which I'll talk about at the end of the podcast, of being awake and stuff, and also why I look extremely tired. So that has given me a lot of time to do things like organize. I'm going to talk about it more in a little bit too, but you may have noticed that my yarn stash looks different, and so I'm excited to talk about that at the end. So let's talk about my first finished object. My first finished object is my Charade socks. The pattern for the Charade socks is by Sandra Park. The yarn is Merry Berry Christmas by Redbird Yarn Studio, and the pattern is a, sorry about the bumping, that's the cat, is a herringbone rib. And so I knit a little over an inch of twisted rib, and then I did the herringbone pattern for the rest of the way down. I did a slip stitch heel for both of them. The heel is really short on this sock. Yeah, the heel is really short on both socks. It's shorter on the other one than this one, but they're both quite short. I really enjoyed this pattern. I think I knit one of the socks with a size 2 for longer. I think, yes, I think this one maybe I knit a size 2 just for the cuff, and then the leg in a size 1, and I think I might have knit size 2 all the way down. These are a bit stretched out because I have worn them a lot, and I really enjoy wearing them. They stay on my feet and legs just fine. They only slip down in, like, you know, if I'm sliding off my boots or something. I thought it was a super good idea, and I'll talk about this more for my second pair of socks, to follow, like, I think it was Hunter Hammerson or someone's, yeah, I think it's Hunter Hammerson for the one pattern that I'm doing for her, to cast on in size 2s, because my calves are pretty big. I don't know if that's actually a good idea overall. For the specific pattern that I'm knitting for Hunter Hammerson, it seems to work really well because it is very cinched, and so it, like, fits. I think just a regular rib pattern, though, it gets too stretched out. Like, I need it to be a smaller size to hold on to the leg so it doesn't get stretched out and fall off. But anyway, I really am enjoying these socks. I was so happy to have them in time for Christmas at Steve's family up north. We celebrated earlier with his family on the 22nd. Yeah, on Saturday. And one of his relatives who I had never met before, she's a little bit further down in his line or whatever, and she is a basic knitter, and so it was really fun to talk to her. She was really disappointed when she found out that we don't live up north and therefore only visit like 3 or 4 times a year tops, like 2 times for sure. And she was really wanting a knitting buddy because she just retired after being a NICU nurse for her whole career. So that's my first finished objects. So as I mentioned earlier, the first half of Advent, the first 12 days, I opened mini skeins, but that left the second half of Advent. I had considered buying 24 days of mini skeins, but I kind of wanted to branch out or try something different. So it's not that I didn't like Brazen Stitchery's mini skeins, that I didn't want the second half of them, because I really did. But I also thought, you know, it might be, I saw so many people knitting socks for Advent, and, you know, a lot of yarn dyers did, not a lot, a couple popular yarn dyers did have a 24-day sock Advent, but Fibernymph Dye Works had a 12-day Advent. So I ordered a skein of that partway through the month, and I knit myself a pair of mini skein socks. Again, these are stretched out for 2 reasons, one of which I learned right when I was writing the notes for this podcast. So the first reason why they're stretched out is because, again, I have been wearing them a lot. These are starting up here. This is 1 full repeat of the 12 days of Christmas, ending with 12 drummers drumming, I think. Maybe this is 12, yeah, this is 12 drummers drumming. Is it 12 drummers drumming? Now I can't remember the order. Whatever, I think it's 12 drummers drumming, 11 lords of leaping, right? Or is it 12 lords of leaping, 11 drummers drumming? I don't know. All I know is 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids of milking, 7 sons of swimming. Like, that's like where I can orient myself. But yeah, so I knit these on size 2s and 1s, and it's just a basic vanilla sock. The cuffs and heel are Yarnlovinglady dye, like random club that she did. So I really enjoy these. The other reason why these are bigger than expected is because when I was making the show notes, I discovered that this yarn is sport weight. When I was knitting with this, I was like, wow, this is so plush and decadent. It's so thick and nice. Wow, what a really cozy sock yarn. It is a sport weight yarn. And that is why these are slightly big. But they're still really cozy, and they don't, I mean, they don't like just fall down naturally. They just sort of, they fall down when I adjust my pants or whatever. And none of that matters to me. I can just exist and it's fine. I love these socks. I have enough. So knitting these socks took 67 grams of the yarn. So I only have 33 left. I could maybe make a pair of shorties or something. Maybe. Probably not. But this is really cute yarn. So those are my vanilla Advent 12 Days of Christmas socks. The next thing that I have finished that I want to show you, but I can't show you in person, so I will add a picture. Hopefully I will get it before I start uploading this, but I might not. Is a blanket for my brother's girlfriend Amber, and it is a blanket that I knit out of 4 skeins of Bernat Pipsqueak in the pink colorway. I don't remember what the fiber composition is of it, but it's almost like, it looks like terry cloth, but it is much softer. And so it's like fuzzy and thick, but it also is literally lighter than air. Like, even using 4 skeins, it still ended up not having any weight. And I remember in my last podcast kind of being nervous about that. She said that she really likes it, but I feel like anything else that I would make again with that same yarn, I would use either smaller needles or hold the yarn double. But because I only had 4 skeins and I had ordered those skeins, so I didn't, like, they weren't existing in my shop, in like a big box store nearby that I could find or that I knew of. I had to sort of make do with what I had. But it's plenty like big. It's like a nice lap blanket. And the needles I think were a little big, so it was very holey, but it also is like tactily nice to put your fingers in, I guess, like if you want to like squish it. It was very, very squishy and very soft. And so I was really excited to give that to her. And it knit up quick because it was giant needles and thick yarn. And so that is Amber's Garter blanket. I am drinking out of my, I want to say Stone Cottage Pottery and Farm mug. I think. I will correct myself if wrong. I might have shown this on my last podcast too, I don't know. And the last FO that I have for you today is the Half Moon Shawl by Sandra Prikule, and or Prikule. It is a simple half moon shawl that starts with casting on the total number of stitches that you want to knit, and then starting in the center and increasing out sort of at random intervals. The pattern is written by a non-native English speaker, and it is extremely obvious within the written pattern, and it is a very informal written pattern. It's a free maybe it's not free. I don't know, but it's the pattern that my mom had originally wanted when I knit her what ended up being a lap blanket out of the Lion Brand Thick and Quick. This is actually what she wanted, and she said I didn't have to go crazy with the colors if I did make it, but when we were doing Shop Hop in Madison, Madtown Shop Hop, one of the stores had tons and tons of eyelash and other novelty yarn, and so I had a lot of fun picking out a bunch of different colors to use in the shawl. I ended up not using 3 skeins. I can't remember how many I bought, maybe 12, and I bought 2 of most skeins and had 1 of skeins that I could only find 1 of, but there were 3 skeins, 2 black and 1 turquoise, that I didn't end up using because I didn't feel like they fit with the motif of the shawl once I started knitting it. And it was my first time using eyelash yarn. It was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I would not mind knitting something with eyelash yarn again. And it's like heavy, like it's a really substantial wrap. I will add in pictures of my mom wearing it and maybe a video of like the full length of the shawl. So Mom, what do you think of this shawl?
Oh, I really like it. This is exactly what I wanted.
Good.
I mean, the lap blanket's good too. But look at this. I mean, like, even this, like, it just reminds me of, I don't know, like an alpaca or something. Like, these are the colors that I imagined, but I really like how you put this in there too. It just reminds me of an animal, but not in an inhumane way.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't measure it. You can. My mom is like 5'5", so in the pictures you can like estimate how long that shawl actually is. Like it's got to be longer than her wingspan. But it was super fun. I really liked it. I would definitely do more again with eyelash yarn. I honestly think it probably gets a little hot really fast because it probably doesn't breathe. The pattern said, I think, I didn't realize this until I was like partway through knitting it, but the pattern said to hold it with a regular yarn, and I didn't really like that. I didn't like the look for most of it. Like some I did, but some I didn't. Some I either just left singles or held double with itself, because I think it looked nicer that way. But so I'm not really sure the purpose of that, or if she wanted you to like just make sure that it was thick enough. But man, this shawl is plenty thick. Or maybe it was even just because of fear of not being able to find the thread again if you dropped stitches, but I was totally fine. So it was a lot of fun. I'm glad that I knit it, and I would definitely use novelty yarn again sometime in the future. All right, that's it for all of my FOs for now, for 2019 probably. I guess I could mention that I knit like 28-ish washcloths this year. I gave them all out as gifts. I think I kept 1 for myself because it was a different pattern than all the rest, and everyone loved their washcloths, and I definitely have a plan to continue knitting those for next year. In my head, I'm thinking about maybe trying to learn how to crochet those little scrubbies that like Yarn Hoarder has made using the tulle, but I'm a very, very novice crocheter, so it would have to be a simple pattern. But barring that, let's go on to my whips. The first whip that I have is, of course, my Whether or Not shawl, scarf. So here is the month of November. It starts here on this yellow row and ends almost at the last row of this this green. So this is a pattern by Scott Rohr. He has already released the pattern for 2020, by the way, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this was November. I feel like November had a pretty even amount of days that were warm or cold, or maybe average or cold. Let's see. November saw 15, 16, November saw 17 days that were cooler than average, and 6 days that were at average, and then so that makes it what, like 7 days that were above average? Oh, I'm sorry. 1 less day that was average, so 8 days that were above average. So the coldest that November got was 18 degrees when the average was supposed to be 44, and the highest November got was 46, and when that day the average would have been 41. So it was a pretty cool month. It was low 30s a lot of the time and upper 20s. So in that range, we have aconite, meadow, and Ivanhoe. And this yarn is Holst Garn Coast yarn. I cannot wait to finish. I only have like 2 days left, and when I finish this, I cannot wait to block it and see how the yarn changes. I mean, with the use, it has definitely gotten less crunchy. Like, it does not feel crunchy anymore, but it's all fluffily, you know, and rolled up on itself. So I really want to watch this and see how it changes and see how long it ends up actually being. So Scott has released the 2020 pattern, and I don't think I want to knit a scarf for 2020. I'm not 100% sure that I want to do a weather something, but something that I do each day would be really interesting, so I kind of feel like I want to. I feel like a blanket would be more productive. Just because, I mean, think about it. If you knit a square per day with an about equivalent number of stitches in like a non-complicated pattern, even if it was just like garter, like a granny square basically, I think that it would be really awesome. You'd end up with a blanket by the end of the year, 365 days, right? So I'm gonna think more about that a little bit, because I want to do something, but it would be really neat to do something different where I end up with something crazy nice like a blanket, because I don't have any knit blankets for myself, and I certainly don't have like a knit afghan or anything. So yeah, if you have any ideas, let me know. My next whip is the Hogwarts A History Sweater by Megan Regan, and I'm knitting this in Sun Valley Fibers in the colorways Mulberry and Golden Harvest, and I can't remember what the white is called, and I could not find it online, so it's some color that's for white. It's probably like snow or something. So I am on the body. I have about 7 to 8 inches done, and I need 13 before I can look at the ribbing. And so right now I'm just knitting around and around and around. Feel like it's looking good. Sean is of course very excited. I think I'm knitting these on 4s. Yeah, so the Hogwarts History sweater allows you to choose different motifs. This has a lot of white on it. But so Sean chose the lightning bolt as motif A. She chose the snitch and the gold hoops for B. And then she didn't choose anything for C. She had me do the motif from A, which is this repeating stars. And then she wanted me to do stars for motif D, in addition to the Deathly Hallows. So I made this up as I went. Like, I mean, I made a little chart, and I don't think she thinks it's too busy. I don't know. It makes me a little, I don't know. It's hard working with 3 colors at once. That's one thing for sure. But I think that she'll like it. And yeah, it's really nice. I do feel like it's important though to talk a little bit about, like, I'm knitting a Harry Potter sweater for a friend who obviously really loves Harry Potter. Harry Potter was a very big part of my preteen and I mean through adulthood years, you know. The last several books I bought immediately on release day and read them that day. J.K. Rowling's transphobic comments and like turf bullshit is definitely not a part of my Harry Potter universe. Like, yeah, she wrote the books, but like the way that I experienced the characters does not jive with her. So like, it's like really tough supporting characters and really caring a lot about a universe where someone is like trying to poison and ruin it with their really bad opinions. And it's so frustrating that, and I think opinions isn't even the right word, just bad, horrible piece of shit beliefs. I felt the same way with Orson Scott Card, with the Ender's Game series. Like, the Ender's Game universe and the people in it are so very important to me, and Orson Scott Card is a trash human. So a lot of like famous authors and creators are super problematic, and I think there's a difference between like taking ownership of the universe that you have. Like, I'm supporting a person who made a pattern. I'm not supporting J.K. Rowling by purchasing this pattern. J.K. Rowling does not get loyalties from this pattern. You know, like, I haven't seen any of the movies since the original movies. I haven't, you know, purchased any of the additional books or memorabilia or anything that's come out since probably 2007. And whenever the last release of the last movie is, I guess. So I'm not supporting JK in any way. But I don't see a problem with, first of all, I have plenty of Harry Potter colorways right now in my stash. And I know that there are a lot of yarn dyers who have yarn already made in Harry Potter colorways, and I want to continue to support them. But I do feel gross and extremely like upset and disappointed about how J.K. Rowling is trying to ruin everything for you know, Harry Potter fans, but also really alienate a whole section of people, and that is not okay. I fully support every person for who they are. They deserve to feel safe and seen and recognized and not have to fight to be who they are. So I don't support J.K. Rowling or her actions, anything that she says. TERF is stupid. It is the bullshit belief system. So that's all I'm going to say about that. If you have any questions or want to chat more, you can always message me or comment below. And let me know your thoughts or what you plan on doing with your yarns or other Harry Potter items if you're a Harry Potter fan. Believe it or not, that is it for all of my works in progress. You guys, I have completed almost all of my whips that I've been working on in 2019. The only, like, there's a pair of socks that I'm not going to talk about because I haven't made any progress since last time. I mean, I already kind of mentioned them. They're that Hunter Hammerson pattern. And a tank top that I was working on from Paper Daisy Creations or Lisa Ross. And again, it's because I haven't made any progress since a few months ago. So once I make progress on those, I will bring them back. I intend to finish both of them, but I probably won't finish them this year. And since I haven't made any progress, I'm not going to talk about them again on this podcast. So now we are on to, I mean, it's life stuff, but there's also like, it's just like general yarn stuff. So because the first thing that I want to talk about is I organized my stash. Yay. I really like thought, okay, my yarn stash, if you look at like even my last podcast, was really packed and out of control, and I wanted to find a way to reorganize it. So the first thing that I did to organize my yarn was to buy a set of 3 cubbies. to like be able to add more yarns to, but that didn't really alleviate my problems. So the next thing I did was I went through all of my commercial yarn and got rid of anything that I haven't touched in a year or more, which was most of it, because even like pretty commercial yarns or yarns that I'm like, wow, oh, this is nice. Yeah, I would make something with this someday. I really don't think I will. Like, even if it's nice, I just won't get to it. So I just made the executive decision to any commercial yarns that I was not planning on using, I put in garbage bags. I get 2 full garbage bags. Now, I would like to clarify that a lot of the commercial yarn that I had, I never intended to really use, and I had as duplicate stitch material. So back when I would knit scarves, so I actually have a base. So I used to knit scarves in full tubes. This is huge. This is so nice. This has gotta be like at least 70 inches of Karen Simply Soft in red that's getting completely blown out. So when I would make geeky scarves, I would knit these tubes and then duplicate stitch on top of them. And I actually know exactly what I'm going to use this for. I've had this base knit for a long time. So back when I didn't really knit for myself and I didn't have a lot of branching yarn yarn endeavors, and definitely no indie dyed yarn, I would make and sell scarves on Etsy because I could make a good amount of money if you pretend that labor means nothing. And I mean, I wanted to keep them affordable. I think I talked about this recently. And so I would like knit those bases. And in order to have geeky duplicate stitch, you needed to have yarn to duplicate stitch onto the scarf. And so I had a bunch, like a whole range of colors, like, you know, 5 different types of skin color yarn, and, you know, a bunch of different clothing colors that were popular with, you know, geeky pixelated characters. And, you know, it's just one of those things where, like, one, I don't really do that anymore. 2 years ago, I knit a scarf for my friend Nick, and I have one more friend that I need to do a geeky knit scarf before I've hit like everybody in my friends group, and I think I'm gonna use that one because I mean that is his favorite color, so I probably did make that for him and then forgot about it. I just gotta figure out what to duplicate stitch on there. But the only other thing is that I duplicate stitched onto some gloves for my cousin Morrigan. So it's like anything that I'm doing with commercial yarn is just so small, and it felt like my commercial yarn taking up like 3 of my cubes real estate for yarn that I don't really use, and I just really could not, I don't want to put it in like a tub or a bin. Like I just don't want it to be taking up space in my house. So I got rid of it, and it was so nice. And I actually got rid of a decent amount of like okay, nice commercial yarn, or like I got rid of some silk yarns, silk remnant yarn from Darn Good Yarn, which is plenty nice and very pretty. I kept those for a while, but I just don't knit projects with that small amount of yarn, and it's always like bulky or super bulky, and I just don't justify using, or I don't have enough projects with that yarn. So I feel like someone is definitely going to enjoy the nicer yarn. I also got rid of some old random wool. Some of it is more rustic. When I was like, in my head, I was just like, oh, yeah, nicer yarn is just more expensive. If it's itchy, that's okay, you know, and that did not end up working out. I'd never used the itchy yarn. So I got rid of that. But then some of it is just mystery yarn that I will never use. So I got rid of a ton, and I made myself a lot of space, which I will give a little video of at the end. But my friend Courtney, like I took all of my yarn out and I put it on the floor, and then I sorted them by general color. And then my friend Courtney, who does like graphic design and went to school for art and has a very good art eye, helped me sort the colors, which was very difficult. You can see that there's some things, like I feel like this guy is standing out right now, but we had reasoning when we put it in. The reason I think it stands out a little bit more now is that after the fact, after we sorted the yarns, I then did eventually take out all of my self-striping sock yarn and put it in those 3 cubbies, because like you can see this is still really full even though I went through my yarns, and like this also is still quite full, and then this one is much less, so you can see maybe which yarns I favor. Although here I have a sweater's quantity worth of yarn, and I have been starting to collect, and up here too, starting to collect more sweater's quantities of yarn. So yeah, I'm so like, every single skein of yarn in there is a skein of yarn that I want to make a project with and that I love. And not only that, you guys, I spent like 2 full days of this break adding all of my stash to Ravelry, including pictures, including all the details. I weighed a lot of them to double check their weight, especially if they just had yardage, or, you know, I just didn't believe that it was what it said it was. And so I'm really, really excited about having my stash in Ravelry, because now I can see the yarn suggestions, and now I can actually just say use stash yarn. And I fully intend to only add things to my stash now and not add things to my stash. This brings me to my next topic. I did not do a Make 9 this year. Last year, I want to say I knit like 21 projects, or I just remember saying somewhere like, oh, I knit over 20 projects this year. Wow, I did so good. And this year, I have completed 28 projects, and last year, I believe I counted like every washcloth that I made in my total project list, or my project total. This year I completed 28 projects, a lot of which included socks, and 28 washcloths in addition to that. In 2019 I completed 1 woven scarf, 2 pairs of mittens, 2 blankets, lap blankets, throws, whatever you want to call them, 3 hats, 3 tops, 2 of which were the My Boy Lollipop crop tops, and 1 was the Cobain top. I completed 8 pairs of socks. 2 of those pairs were for Steve, which is much larger than my feet, so I'm always extra accomplished thinking about those. And I completed 9 shawls. And yeah, that's awesome. I'm super proud of like the work that I have done this year. I feel like I really got into like my groove with knitting socks. I am just sort of experiment. I'm excited to make more socks for 2020, and I have tons of sock yarn. I would say a large part of my collection is sock yarn, and I'm just such a sucker for a really good self-striping. And yeah, I have plans for 2020. I have plans for lots of things that I want to make, but I am only going to showcase my Make 9. So strap yourselves in. We're going to talk about my Make 9. So in the order of what I want to make in 2020, I want to start with the Lunar Rising sweater by Tina Say. So Tina Say Knits is a Chinese American who has, I think, only recently started designing, but her designs have like taken off. And she wore her Lunar Rising sweater to China and took several pictures in it, and I was like, oh my god, that looks like the comfiest sweater I have ever seen. I feel like she and I don't have that different of body types. I want that sweater. So that is the first thing that I want to make in 2020. So it requires 6 skeins of DK yarn for the size that I want to knit. I believe I will be knitting the size 3 for myself. She made herself the size 2, but I think the size 3 will work better for me. I haven't found my dream skeins yet. I did order some skeins from Suburban Stitcher that I think I want to use for the sweater, but maybe I will save them for a different sweater. But I need 6 skeins, and it should be 2, 2, and 2 for a fade. It's a faded sweater. I will attach a picture here. I'm not sure what side. One of the sides, I think the left side. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I remember someone mentioning for this one and the next one on a different podcast that like saying that like having poofy sleeves is not practical, and I just completely disagree with that. And yeah, completely disagree. I cannot wait to knit this. The second sweater that I would like to, or the second Make 9 that I want to do for 2020, I'm already doing it for 2020, is the Diaphanous Raglan by Jessamyn of Jessamyn Knits? Jessamyn? She is, of course, blown up because she has really well thought out, well designed, extremely inclusive patterns for a wide range of sizes, as all patterns should be. And I fell in love with the Diaphanous Raglan. It looks so comfy. I think it's probably basically a crop, or if it's not a crop, it sits right at hip level, and I'm definitely going to make it longer, I think. I guess I didn't really plan for that when I ordered the yarn that I have. So it calls for some fingering weight yarn and a lace or mohair. And I ordered a skein of fingering weight from KnitCircus. It's a gradient and it looks amazing. Like, and I feel like with a skein of mohair, it would look even better. I feel like I probably saw a finished project with a gradient that I was like, oh my god, I have to do that. But now I'm like, I don't know, it might be more complicated than I'm thinking. So I don't know, we'll see. But I don't have the mohair for it because I don't know what shade, like when you separate for the sleeves, I don't know what shade I'll be at. And so I think it will be like a maroony, maybe like mulberry, deep crimson, purpley toned color. And so I will probably look for a mohair in that color, but I wanted to have the skein with me so I can like match the colors. So that is the Diaphanous Raglan by Jessamyn. The third pattern that I would like to knit for 2020 is the Arachne sweater. So the Arachne sweater is a, again, it seems pretty fitted, although the pattern itself says, I think, 2 to 6 inches of positive ease. And I'm in between sizes on that pattern, and I decided I wanted to size up if that's the case, because I really would hate it to be too small. The waist on the smaller size that I would be knitting for is like just around my waist, and the sleeves, I have pretty big biceps, and so the sleeve would be, I think, a little bit too tight. So I just sized up, and I'll figure it out. That is a sport weight yarn, and sport weight is so much harder to find, I feel like, than DK. But I did just go, I went on Knit Picks, and I ordered a deep purple and an orange. So I'm gonna have the main body of it in purple and the spiderweb in orange, and I am so hype for a Halloween sweater. And that again is the Arachne sweater by Andy Satterland. The fourth pattern that I want to knit in 2020 for my Make 9 is the Lovebirds Cowl by Kate Oates. I also secretly, low-key, plan to knit the sweater so they can come together in an ebook. They use the same motif, and the cowl actually comes with a short snug cowl or a thin infinity scarf that you can wear. And this is a pattern for Steve. So Steve really wants me to knit him a scarf or cowl. He loves like feeling like his neck is warm and cozy, and the Lovebirds cowl is perfect for him. And that is knit in a fingering weight. I am going to have him look through the current colors that I have and see if there's anything that he wants, because I have tons of all of this is fingering weight, and so there's a lot of options there. And I don't think it uses 2 skeins of 350 yards each, so it should have 50 yards left of each when finished. And yeah, so I have secret desires to knit myself the Lovebirds sweater. And that there's another sweater I might have mentioned a few episodes ago that is by a person who is problematic, and I don't want to support their stuff. So I am going a different direction. The 5th pattern that I want to knit in 2020 is the Rolling Pastures Shawl by Vincent Williams. So he's also known as Vesuvius Crafts on Instagram, and he is amazing, and he is literally my cousin Morgan in a different body. Like, they are twins, they have such similar personalities, they're like sweet, but have like big loud laughs, and they just clearly have so much joy. And I really, really love supporting Vincent. And he released a like really, really cozy looking garter shawl recently, and it's like a horizontal garter shawl. And if you've ever seen any of his patterns, like, he is insane at crochet, and his knitting patterns are just as clever. And both of his shawls are relatively simple, because he wanted to release patterns that like just felt comfortable and were cozy. And I really don't mind knitting garter stitch. I actually really like the texture of garter. So I went to purchase the shawl that just came out, and while I was there, I saw the Rolling Pastures shawl, and that one is also like a pretty simple motif, pretty simple, like general shawl, but then it also has like a big cable running down the side, and it is cozy. It's knit in DK, and it requires 660 to 690 yards, so like 3 skeins of DK yarn. And I was like just looking at my notes here, and I don't have it written down here, probably because I didn't have anything to add. You just need 3 skeins of a DK yarn. I actually, now that I'm talking about it, I might, if I don't find yarns that I want for the 3 skeins that I ordered from Suburban Stitcher, I might use those for this shawl. Speaking of, now that I'm thinking about it, I did order 6 skeins of yarn from Suburban Stitcher. So, you guys, she's having a sale, I think, through the end of the year. That whatever yarns of hers are left, they are, I think, 30% off, or 25, I think 25% off. But that 25% is so much, and several of her skeins are already on sale, and that applies to sale yarns as well. And I had a significant gift card, well, multiple gift cards that I combined together from my birthday and from Christmas that I used to pay for these yarns that would normally be a lot more money. And so I ended up actually only paying like $5, which was shipping, you know. So anyway, so if you are interested in any of Suburban Stitcher's yarns, go to her website now, because she's selling out, of course. But there was still plenty left. There were a lot of things that I wanted 2 skeins of that were only 1 left. So go do that. The 6th pattern that I would like to knit in my Make 9 for 2020 is the Origins Scarf by Tanya Richter, or Tania Richter. Dang, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's also known as Aetherfang on Instagram and probably Ravelry. And it originally was a mystery knit along that I definitely talked about. I did buy yarn to participate in the mystery knit along. I just didn't end up having time for it because it started in like October, and that is starting to be gift knitting season, and also shiny other projects and socks and whatnot. So it's on my official list. I have all of the yarn that I need for it. I'm going to be using the KnitCircus Breathtaking BFL in the Midnight Moon colorway. That's like a deep plum colorway, and it's really beautiful. And that's the main color. And the contrasting color is KnitCircus Trampoline in the Hawaiian Sunset colorway. So it's a gradient. It's a gradient yarn. I can't remember. It goes from a like pink maroon to like an orange to a yellow to a peach, I think. But yeah, I saw examples of gradients using exactly KnitCircus's gradient yarn in other scarves of Aetherfangs, and oh my god, too good. Cannot wait. I mean, if you've ever seen Tanya's designs, they are so intricate and amazing. So I'm definitely going to be working on that. The 7th pattern in my Make 9 for this year that I would like to knit is the Golden Horizon sweater by Tina Say. So when the Golden Horizon sweater first came out in September, well, it might have come out before that actually, but around that time, she was doing a Golden Horizon sweater knit along sometime in the fall, and I really wanted to knit it, and so I had bought, I believe, this, I think this, Berroco Vintage DK. The yarn that I'm looking for is on the very bottom of my stash. So it's a Berroco Vintage DK yarn in, it's a blue colorway. The colorway is called Dark Denim. And so I do have yarn for that, and I believe my plan had been to use maybe this skein of Jackson yarn. But now that I'm looking at it with this, I feel like maybe I'd want more of a gold. And as you can see, I have a ton of that from Sean's sweater left if she doesn't want it back. So I think that I will still use that yarn for it because I already have the right amount of yarn that I need, and I just need to figure out what I want as the contrast color. Again, it's like a very nice flattering sweater that would just be really nice to have. So that's the Golden Horizon sweater by Tina Say. The 8th pattern in my Make 9 for 2020 is the Witty Banter Wrap by Megan Williams. I believe Megan Williams is also known as Just Run Knit on Ravelry and probably Instagram as well. She is one of the founders, I want to say, God, I hope I'm not giving bad information, of Zombie Knit Apocalypse in Rochester, Minnesota. She is a very sweet person who is involved and local, and she released a set of wraps that have like keyholes, or that you can style in ways that are more interesting than just like a regular scarf or a regular shawl. And so I bought the whole collection, and the Witty Banter Wrap is my most excited. Like, I mean, they're all really good, but the Witty Banter Wrap is just a very, very interesting stitch pattern, and I really would like to knit that, and I would like to have a different style wrap that's also a scarf that I can wear. I have tons of yarn that I could use for it. It just requires a fingering weight yarn, 2 colors, 460 yards each of those colors, and it'll just be good to have another wrap to my collection. And that is the Witty Banter Wrap by Megan Williams. The final thing that I would like to knit for my Make 9 in 2020 is the 54 cowl by Jen Peck. This is a small cowl that it's called 54 because there are 54 different combinations that you can style with the border, the body, and the something after the body. I can't remember what they call it. So there's a bunch of different ways you can make this. I don't have an idea yet what I want to do, but it just requires fingering weight yarn, and I feel like it's just like a nice, like, versatile cowl, and I kind of want one of those for work and just life. I feel like I am really into the like small kind of cowls or shawls and sweaters. As you can see, I have lots of sweaters. I am working on literally my first sweater as Sean's sweater, and I am so hyped to keep doing it. Just like everything else, just like with socks, just like with hats, just like with mittens. Oh, maybe not mittens, because I kind of started with those and then backed off and then came back to them. But I mean, everything just seems so hard and so scary until you do it, and then it gets easier and you realize that it's not that different. I know sizing can be an issue, and I mean, that's a bridge that I will cross when I come to it. But other than that, I mean, like, knitting is knitting, and I love it, and I am really looking forward to 2020 being like my best knitting year yet. I do, however, reserve the right to change my Make 9. I think that just the last two I might have as lower priority. Like I said, those obviously aren't the only 9 projects I plan on working on in 2020, although I have a pretty aggressive like list. Like, they are definitely pretty involved projects, but I'm gonna do it. I want to do it. I'm gonna do it. I want to take just a little bit of time to talk about some gifts I got from my mom, or my mom's family, for Christmas. So they went to Seattle, and I don't know if this was the same time around my birthday or if it was a different time after, but around my birthday they went to Seattle and they bought me a skein of yarn. And you know, they went to local yarn shops, and I know my mom watches my podcast, and so she tries really hard to see what I like. And you know, speaking of which, I would like to interrupt myself for a second to say my friend Courtney also, like, was so sweet and bought me, what she thought was like the coolest thing ever was a custom skein of yarn, but actually it was more like a dye to order skein, and so me and the shop owner talked, and I just picked a skein that she already had in stock, and it's a really gorgeous skein. It is, oh, it's a worsted weight, so it's not up here. Sorry, Mom, I interrupted myself to talk about Courtney's yarn really quick. So Courtney was so disappointed that like custom skein doesn't mean you can just message a shop owner and say like, I want this thing, I want it to look like this and be like this. I do have one completely custom skein of yarn dyed from MaliaMayedIt, but it's a self-striping, and like we talked back and forth about it a lot, and she likes trying to figure out different self-stripings. So but yeah, so she was disappointed, but I found a really good skein of yarn that I was so happy to get, and it is from Yarnlovinglady, who is Lisa Phillips, and Courtney had bought a skein of the worsted weight, and I chose the colorway Disco Nights, and it's like a gray, yeah, this is it, gray with speckles. It's really, really like squishy. It is 100% merino wool, superwash, 218 yards. So I was really happy to get it. It was kind of strange to me that Courtney bought a skein of the worsted. I feel like, especially if it was custom and it wasn't actually decided, that I should have been able to pick a different weight if that's what I wanted. But I didn't think about it at the time, and the person like didn't, like Courtney like emailed both of us and was trying to connect us, and the person did not reach out to me. But when I didn't like follow up, she followed up with Courtney instead. And the reason why I didn't follow up was because I was waiting for her to explain what it was that Courtney ordered, because obviously I had no idea. So the experience was kind of weird, but the yarn is really good. Oh, and it comes with a really cute speckled stitch marker. So that's cool. Okay, back to my mom. So they bought me a skein of yarn, and so it's really sweet to me that people close to me care about my podcast enough to like watch and listen to me talk about yarn all the time, and they're paying close enough attention. Like, I don't expect everyone to be sitting down just watching my podcast while doing nothing else, but it's really sweet to me that people are paying enough attention that they can try to sort of like guess and take little risks about the kind of yarn that I would like. Steve, for the first time, had bought me skeins of yarn for my birthday, and then he also got me 2 skeins for Christmas, and one of them is this one, which actually is called Apocalypse, even though it kind of looks like a Christmas colorway. I believe the green is a little bit more teal than Christmas, but I think it's supposed to be like a violet more kind of colorway. And then he also bought me a skein of this lace weight yarn in the Rubber Ducky colorway, and both of the yarns, this one and that one, are Leading Men Fiber Arts. And that was really sweet. But I trust Steve all the time to be able to buy me the right kind of yarn, because I talk about it constantly. Okay, for real, my mom's yarn. So I know that, I think she was like, or the family was like a little nervous, because obviously it's like, do you like it? I don't know if you like it. I'm taking a big risk here. But the yarn was great. It is the Dream Color to Life yarn, which I do have one other skein of, maybe 2. It's Smooshy with Cashmere, so it's super decadent. And this colorway is Jessamyn or Jessamyn, and it is a fingering weight yarn, blue and white with speckles. And it's very, very squishy because it is 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It is squishy, of course. Squishy yarn is squishy, or smooshy, I'm sorry, smooshy yarn. Yeah, so I love it. All of the yarns are also very, very gorgeous. Oh, for my birthday, she bought me a skein of unique fingering. I don't know if I shared that. I don't know if I had time. Anyway. And I also got 2 project bags. One of them is kind of inappropriate, so brace yourselves. The first one I don't know what material it is, but it says, I can see you checking out my ball sack. It's so highbrow, you guys. So I get to put my projects in this bag, which for a sassy saying is actually quite funny to me. So like it, you know, obviously part of knitting community stuff, right? There's like a lot of cheeky sayings, and for a cheeky saying, this one's good, and I actually really like that they put 2 yarn balls on the front of this. So this is my naughty little project bag that my mom got me. Of course, my family thought that was hilarious. And then the second project bag that they got me, so there's no brand on this project bag, but this is my first ever project bag with a window in it. I have looked at them in so many shops, and I just never like wanted to buy them because they're really expensive project bag wise. And this one is so cute. It could fit probably a shawl. Yeah, a shawl. It's not sweater size, but it's definitely big enough for most projects. And it's got cute little sheepies with cute little balls of yarn. And the zipper is nice. It has a handle, and of course the window. So that was awesome. A very good gift. Otherwise, in terms of my stash collection, I am working on getting all of my currently caked yarns onto a pegboard. But pegs, like those straight hook pegs with the 2 prongs that go into pegboards, are surprisingly expensive, and they only sell a couple of them at a time, and I need like 50. So I bought several just to do a concept, like will this concept work? Do I like the way it looks? And so I bought a 2 foot by 4 foot pegboard that I'm going to actually stick up here when I'm finished. And you can see one of my attempts to organize my caked yarn was to stack them in a pyramid like that, but they weren't secure in any way. So I think this is a much better solution, and it looks really nice. And but I had to order them because no stores even around here really sell them. I went to Menards, and where I bought the ones that I have, and they seriously had like a little, like it was like this, and it had little cardboard slots, and it had like 5 cardboard slots with like 2 sets of each size. It was crazy. And according to internet searches, they're quite expensive. I did order them from Amazon. There were some reviews that were like, mine are perfect and amazing, and they were great for my tools and whatever. And then some of them were like, these prongs are so stupid, they don't ever stay in my thing and they always fall down. But so I'm just putting yarn on it, and I won't be touching them a lot. I'm hoping that with the 50 or whatever I ordered, that there'll be enough ones that are fine if they're not all perfect to fit in the pegboard. And yeah, I'm really excited because like KnitCircus Yarns always comes caked, and well, I shouldn't say that. The gradients for KnitCircus Yarns always come caked. The speckles and semi-solids and tonals don't. They come skeined. But all the gradients come caked so that you can see the gradient. And it's hard to store them in these because they take up a lot of space and they're easy to accidentally hide or bury. And I want to see all of my yarn. I'm so happy with the new structure of my yarn because I can see all of it. And I really appreciate it. So that's the other thing I'm working on. The last thing I just want to touch on briefly, because I talked about it a lot during my Vlogmas. If you watch my Vlogmas, you're probably so tired of hearing about it. So if you have watched my Vlogmas and you don't want to hear about it, you can peace out. I won't be sorry. Won't be sad other than being able to say goodbye to you. But I think that's all I'm going to talk about for the rest of this podcast. So you can head on out if you want. But I think I said sleep study. Did I say sleep? Did I even say what I was doing? I don't know. That was weird. I wonder if Steve's home. So I was referred to a sleep clinic. I was diagnosed with chronic insomnia. I have had sleeping problems my entire life in various different forms. It has not always been the same kind of sleep issues, but I have not felt rested since I was a preteen. I've always been a nap person. I'm a very light sleeper. Just lots of issues. I had what I think people would recognize as insomnia in college, where like I wouldn't sleep at all, and then I'd have to go to class, and then I'd fall asleep in class, and then I'd fall asleep on the couches in like public areas, and then I would never sleep at night, even though like I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. And I mean, like, you can sleep for like 20 minutes kind of in a public couch, you know what I mean? That was a really rough year. And then primarily my issues with sleep since then have been difficulties falling asleep and difficulties staying asleep. So my sleep is quite broken. My body is very stubborn. And so I'm working through it's basically cognitive behavioral therapy for sleep. And it is considered the most effective way to have good sleep, other than just having good sleep hygiene is kind of what they call it, to begin with. And it's far more effective than things like medications, both over the counter and prescription. And I used to work in mental health, and I definitely would not want to go the medication route ever. It's more, I personally feel like sleep-specific meds are sometimes more of a problem than they are a solution. They're kind of like a band-aid, and it's tough. I mean, people take sleeping pills for other reasons other than just purely sleep problems, and that's a whole nother issue. So we're trying the CBT, and what it is doing right now is keeping me up a lot longer than the average person for sleep-awake cycles in terms of the amount of sleep I need. So I am allotted 5 hours and 45 minutes in bed, which from start to finish, which means I go to bed at 1:15 in the morning and I get up at 7, and then I'm not allowed to nap during the day. And so I have tons of time to do things now. And for the first, I mean, what really speaks to my sleep problems is that for that first week, simply cutting out naps and going to bed and getting up at the same time. During that week, I was in bed for 8 hours a night. I went to bed at 11 and I got up at 7 and did not nap. And just doing that, I was exhausted. I was so tired. And the therapy differentiates between sleepiness and tiredness. You can be exhausted, you can be so tired you want to cry, you can have difficulty focusing, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're sleepy. So I have difficulties becoming sleepy and staying sleepy. I'm tired a lot, but not sleepy. And I have gotten to the point where I'm definitely sleepy at 1:15 every night. I for the first time in my life that I can remember, I fall asleep really fast. For me. So usually within 5 to 15 minutes I can fall asleep now. However, I still wake up minimum 2 to 3 times a night. And what is expected for a regular human is 0 to 1 times for less than 15 minutes. And you should feel rested in between. Another issue that I have that's really hard to track is that there is a lot of sleep that I have where I am just sort of coasting just below the surface, and so it's very, very light sleep. And a big contributor, according to research, to light sleep is having multiple snoozes. So if you are like I was for the last several years, I wasn't like this my whole life, but for the last several years, having a phone, I have multiple snoozes set. When I was in high school, I had an alarm clock, and I definitely hit the snooze button a few times, but like you have to go to school at a certain time, and I wouldn't set it for too early, so I probably would only hit snooze like, once or twice. Mom, if you remember, you can tell me about my snoozes. And I always napped, always. I was always a napper. But yeah, you apparently, hitting snooze a bunch of times, especially over the course of, you know, a couple hours in the morning, just trains your body to sleep lightly and have more broken sleep, which I definitely have. And so no snoozing, you have to get up. And that's what I'm doing. And there's other things to the program too, but those are like the big ones that impact me, is like the fact that I'm only allowed to be in bed for 5 hours and 45 minutes and I'm awake for at minimum an hour of that time. More usually around an hour and a half. Like, it's not all at once, it's having broken sleep and not feeling rested in between. And I feel like I've kind of hit a wall, hopefully, with that. Like yesterday, I was actually feeling pretty optimistic. Like, I feel like the doctor sounded so surprised that I hadn't napped during my baseline week that I am guessing that because this therapy is so hard to do, that a lot of people just don't adhere to the program the way that they should, and it takes a lot longer and it's really annoying. And I am adhering to the program as best as I can. I'm following all the rules. No caffeine after 2 p.m. even though I go to bed at 1 in the morning. No alcohol after 2 p.m. And I'm not drinking alcohol in the morning. You know, no naps. Tracking my sleep diligently. Going to bed and getting up at the same time every day. Lots of things. Because I really want to fix my sleep. I want to get better. I want to sleep well. I'm not one of those people who enjoys complaining about my problems. I would like to fix my problems so I do not have problems. But I am very tired. So I spent like the first 2 weeks like deliriously tired. So like sick and so exhausted. We'll see tomorrow how I feel having to go back to work. It is very difficult for me to focus. But I can get it together sometimes. It seems like I can pull it together when needed some of the time. But I am really looking forward to hopefully fixing the amount of times that I wake up in the night so that I can start extending my bedtime. So part 1 is shrink your sleep down. They, in therapy, don't give you less than 5 hours of sleep because then it becomes counterproductive and it has diminishing returns. And in fact, negative returns. So 5 hours is the absolute minimum. So if I do poorly this week, I think I actually need to cut my bedtime even later, because you're trying to force your body to be so sleepy that you don't wake up in the night. So that's the first part. And then once you can wake up for a certain amount of minutes or less, then you can start adding bedtime in 15-minute increments. So we're trying to find, like, first get the sleep under control and then find what's the optimal bedtime or optimal amount of sleep for me. Is it 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours? I'm curious to know. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'm trying to, while I complain a lot on camera in my Vlogmases because I'm so miserable, I also really enjoy having a lot of awake time. I love naps. I was so sad I couldn't nap yesterday. It was Saturday. It was cozy. I just wanted to nap for a little bit, but I didn't. But yeah, I have been making the most of my awake time, which includes some cleaning, or lots of cleaning, and some exercise, and just a lot of knitting, and being like, okay, I can do this. So wish me luck. I'm going to stop here for today because I'm getting pretty long, and I hope to be checking in regularly starting in the new year. I won't do a podcast next week. Oh, maybe I will. I'll do a podcast within the next couple of weeks. And so again, I'd like to have the plan of at least 2 times a month, maybe more. So thank you so much for liking my video. You don't have to like physically like it. That doesn't really matter to me so much, but I do appreciate a subscribe. And you're welcome to follow me on Instagram. I have a Ravelry group now. I'll post the link down. I don't really know exactly what to do with Ravelry groups, so please feel free to give me advice. I will try to remember to be like active in it. Like, I definitely want to talk to you, so please reach out in some capacity, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.